Most people think growth is supposed to feel peaceful right away. Like the moment you decide to do better, life should instantly feel lighter. But that expectation is the mistake. Growth does not start with comfort, it starts with friction. The moment you choose to change how you think, how you live, or how you show up, resistance appears. Not because something is wrong, but because something old is being challenged. This is not about religion. This is about how the human mind works and how transformation actually happens. The Bible describes this clearly in Romans 12:2, where Paul is speaking to people who already believe, not outsiders. He tells them not to be shaped by the world around them, but to be transformed by renewing their minds. That word renewing matters. It means replacing old ways of thinking with new ones, and replacement always creates tension. That tension is what most people feel and mislabel as failure. When you start changing your habits, your nervous system reacts. Science confirms this. Your brain is wired to prefer familiar patterns because they require less energy. So when you interrupt those patterns, your brain pushes back, and that pushback feels like fatigue, distraction, doubt, or irritation. Scripture doesn't deny this discomfort, it explains it. In Hebrews 12:11, discipline and growth is what it touches on, and that discipline does not feel pleasant in the moment. It feels painful, but purpose is long term peace and stability. So if growth feels uncomfortable at first, that does not mean you are off track. It means you are early in the process. Here's where clarity matters. You are not fighting people, you are not fighting the world. You are fighting circumstances. You are wrestling with internal systems. That's why Ephesians 6:12 explains that the struggle is not against flesh and blood. In context, Paul is teaching the real conflict is not other humans, but unseen forces, systems, patterns, and influences that shape behavior and thinking. That means conditioning, thought loops, emotional reactions, old identities that resist change. This is internal, not external. Jesus himself acknowledged this inner struggle in Matthew 26:41 when his disciples couldn't stay awake. He said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He wasn't insulting them. He was explaining human biology and psychology. Your intention can be real while your body and habits lag behind. That gap is the wrestle. This is why resistance often increases when you get serious. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing something new. Fear often shows up here, but fear is not proof of danger, it's proof of uncertainty. That's why 2 Timothy 1:7 explains that fear is not something we are meant to be governed by. In context, Paul is encouraging Timothy not to shrink back from growth or responsibility. Fear shows up when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Growth always involves uncertainty. The Bible never promises comfort first. It promises development through endurance. In James, first, second, James is explaining that challenges test faith, not to break it, but to build perseverance. This aligns with science. Stress, when managed correctly, builds resilience. Muscles grow through resistance. The brain strengthens through challenges. No resistance means no growth. That's why the path feels narrow. In Matthew 7:13-14, Jesus explains that wide paths are easy because they require little thought or discipline. Narrow paths require intention, focus, and restraint. Growth demands awareness. This wrestle you feel is not random. It appears when you start paying attention, when you stop moving on autopilot. The Apostle Paul describes his inner tension in Galatians 5:17, explaining that opposing desires exist within us, not as a curse, but as a reality of change. Old habits don't disappear quietly, they resist replacement. Every time you choose differently, you weaken an old pattern and strengthen a new one. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, scripture calls it renewal. And this process requires patience. That's why Galatians 6:9 encourages consistency without quitting. Not because results are instant, but because they are they accumulate, like they're cumulative. This is where most people stop, right before momentum builds. But here's the truth: struggle does not mean you are failing. It means transformation is underway. Scripture affirms this reassurance in Philippians 1:6, reminding believers that growth is a process that continues over time, not overnight. Nothing meaningful is built instantly. So if your life feels heavier while you're trying to live with intention, expect it. If your mind feels louder, expect it. If old habits try to pull you back, expect it. That's the wrestle. And wrestling means you're engaged, not defeated. You are not broken. You are being shaped. Stay steady, stay aware, stay present. Shalom. And let me add this before I close, because peace doesn't mean wrestle is over. Peace means you understand what wrestle is for. Most people think peace means everything gets quiet, but real peace is staying steady while things are still moving. That's why growth can feel loud, even when you're doing the right thing. Scripture supports this in John 16:33. Jesus tells his followers that trouble will exist in the world, but peace comes from understanding. Peace is not the absence of pressure, it's the ability to stay grounded while pressure exists. This is important because many people quit once they taste peace, thinking that if tension shows up again, something went wrong. But growth happens in layers. Each new level brings new awareness, and awareness brings new responsibility. That's why the wrestle doesn't disappear, it evolves. The Bible explains this progression in Ephesians 4:22 through 24, where Paul talks about putting off the old self and putting on the new. That process is ongoing, not instant. You don't shed everything at once. You grow in stages. Science agrees with this. Behavior change happens in phases. Your brain stabilizes, adapts, then challenges you again as you move forward. That's not failure, that's development. So if you feel resistance again after you thought you already got through it, that doesn't mean go backwards. It means you're being invited forward. Scripture even encourages patience in this process. In Philippians 1:6, Paul reminds believers that growth continues until completion. It's not rushed and it's not random. Transformation is intentional, but gradual. Here's the grounding truth. You don't wrestle to prove yourself, you wrestle because you're changing. And the wrestle sharpens awareness, it strengthens discipline, it builds endurance. Once you understand this, you stop asking when it will end, and you start asking how to move wisely through it. That shift alone brings peace. So, if you're in a season where things feel heavier, but your direction is clear, that's not contradiction, that's growth. Stay steady, stay intentional. Shalom. This message is for those not tuning in to the Super Bowl today. Not out of judgment, but awareness. Millions are placing their attention and emotion into one coordinated event. And while entertainment isn't wrong, attention is energy. Where focus goes, energy flows. Mass events work by unifying consciousness. Most never pause to ask where their energy is being directed, though. They just mindlessly let their energy be directed. The conscious move differently. We observe without being absorbed. We choose inner cultivation over constant consumption, silence, discipline, and alignment. While the world celebrates performances built on unseen work, we choose to be in the unseen work of our own lives, strengthening the mind, refining character, aligning with purpose. This isn't rejection of culture, it's intention. If you're not watching today, it's not because you're missing out, it's because you're protecting your frequency and investing in what lasts beyond the moment. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, stay aligned.